Shakur Stevenson is a god amongst men. Now, a lot of people that don't know much about Shakur Stevenson would brush this off, as many people can only look at the black and white representation of how good someone is based on their level of opposition or who have they beaten. But the truth is, you can peek into someone's ceiling or their potential for greatness simply by looking at their stats and history. Let's first look at where it all manifested from. Shakur Stevenson's amateur career. Shakur Stevenson racked up an amateur career of 61 wins and 6 losses. Most of his losses coming at the beginning of his amateur career, but as Willie Moses put it, once Shakur Stevenson shifted to a southpaw stance, he was able to find his rhythm and start to dominate in an incredibly impressive fashion. This allowed him to avenge some amateur losses versus the likes of Ruben Villa and become nearly unstoppable at the international level. He competed in the AIBA World Series of Boxing, which is a tournament that allows amateur boxers to compete on a professional level while still maintaining amateur status and Olympic eligibility. Shakur went undefeated in that tournament. He also went undefeated in the Youth Olympic Games in 2014 and the Youth World Championships in 2014, winning gold in both. He of course qualified for the Olympic trials, won, and then qualified for the Olympic Games for the Rio 2016 Olympics. Now, this trajectory in and of itself was already unheard of. No one had been as successful in the international level since Andre Ward back in 2004. But Shakur Stevenson was able to do what many thought was impossible for an American international amateur boxer. He fought his way through the Olympics, winning an Olympic silver medal in a controversial and contested bout versus Robesi Ramirez. However, winning silver was a historical feat, as that was the highest medal an American has won since Andre Ward in Athens 2004. Over 17 years. So although that was his first and only international loss in the amateurs, he still racked up an impressive resume. Since then, he has moved to the pro circuit. He is now an 18-0 pro with 9 knockouts. And to say that he has accelerated his level of competition at his young age is an understatement. His opponent's combined record is 301 with 30 losses. He essentially beelined to a world title, becoming the 3rd fastest to ever win a world title in just his 13th bout, Lomachenko being the 2nd fastest to do it in his 3rd professional bout. However, Lomachenko had a loss when it happened. Shakur was 12-0. He defeated Joet Gonzalez for the WBO World Featherweight Champion at the 126-pound division. And at the time, he was the 2nd youngest world title holder, just behind Devin Haney. But the impressive feats do not stop there. He is a defensive master. Although he has been fighting for world titles and at world level competitions, his opponents still have trouble making contact. Looking at the CompuBox stats, his opponent's connect percentage is 13.9%, which places him number 2 in the world, just behind Dimitri Bivol, and his opponent's power punch connect percentage is 18.3%, placing him number 1 in the world as the least hit when it comes to power punches. And it isn't even close, as Bivol trails him at number 2 at 23.2% connect percentage. He doesn't let his opponents hit him. And on top of that, he is in the top 10 in the world on connect percentage against his opponent. So it's not a case that he's not there to hit them. It's a case that they just simply cannot hit him. His opponents also average an abysmal 7 jabs per fight. You heard that right. Not per round, not per mid-round. 7 jabs landed per fight is the average that his opponents land against him. Just to conceptualize how dominant Shakur Stevenson is, he had 45 consecutive rounds in his boxing career where he outlanded all of his opponents. According to CompuBox, that streak ended in the 3rd round versus Oscar Valdez, the only round that he was outlanded in all of those fights. That is absolutely unbelievable, considering that Valdez was 30-0, was the WBC champion, and was defending his WBC title. Shakur wants to still continue his dominant reign. He doesn't want to end it just yet. He's still pushing forward and testing himself against the best. He is now scheduled to fight Robson Conceição, who many believed was robbed of a decision win, versus Oscar Valdez. This way, Shakur can silence all naysayers who say that Robson Conceição should actually be the WBC champion. And keep note that Robson Conceição only has the one controversial loss to Oscar Valdez and was a Brazilian gold medalist at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio, the same Olympic Games where Shakur Stevenson captured the silver medal. The fact that Shakur Stevenson was able to win a world title at just the age of 22 while still remaining supremely dominant, having encountered zero level of adversity while still fighting the top world level fighters, is unbelievable. To me, he should be at least in the top 10 pound for pound list. You could put him anywhere at the bottom half of that, but it is possible that he is the best fighter in the world that has yet to prove it. But he has the numbers, the titles, and the amateur pedigree to make the argument. He is currently the #1 super featherweight in the world, holding both the WBO and the WBC titles. Now we would just have to wait to see if he decides to try to be undisputed at 130. But the scary thing is, what happens with Shakur Stevenson when he moves up to the heavily talented 135 lightweight division, where there are a lot of monsters up there waiting for him? People like Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, Ryan Garcia, and Lomachenko. This is going to be an interesting journey as we follow Shakur Stevenson to see how good he truly is when put to the test. You must be thinking, how is it possible that such a young man is so good at boxing? So much so that he's beating much older, much more experienced pro fighters. Well, Willie Moses did something very innovative with his grandson. Willie Moses, being the trainer of Shakur Stevenson, decided to have Shakur partake in championship level sparring from a very, very, very young age. Luckily, many people were willing to help him spar people who were world champions at the time. Shakur has sparred the likes of Terrence Crawford, Lomachenko, Devin Haney, all while still being an amateur fighter that had yet to enter the pro ranks. Till this day, he's still sparring with top pound for pound fighters in the world. His hunger to be the best is undeniable. I do predict that Shakur Stevenson will become the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, but only time will tell. Shakur Stevenson is, without a doubt, my favorite professional boxer, and I will continue to follow his journey. But at this point, it is pretty clear that Shakur Stevenson is a god amongst men. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. This is Edward from Boxer Fanatico. Peace out.